Hello, this is Turin Turambar, and this was a game not part of the Forest Nothing team tournament, but requested to me by a Ballista clan member, saying that it was a very good game. And to introduce the players, on one team we have in the red Nova 8, obviously one of the most common, most well-known players in the Forest Nothing community. In his pocket, Adresalmanza, a random player, not bad, but not the greatest. In the other pocket, Smile, a very good, relatively new player to DE, played on HD for a very long time, but moved to the definitive edition, doing very well. And their flank, Laust, obviously another very strong player. And the opposing flank is Shania Twain, a team member of Laust, playing as the Bohemians, one of the new civs. Pretty good, but their potential is still undetermined. His pocket, Quiche, a very good player, although he will never say so. The other pocket, PSY, my teammate, along with Quiche. And their flank, pro.PHET. So if we compare the positions, pro.PHET is a decent player, but he is nowhere at the level of Nova 8. So it seems on this side that Nova will have this half of the map under control. PSY is a very good player, and he will probably cut to pro.PHET and try to save him, but Nova 8 is also a very good player. On the other side, Laust and Shania are relatively even. As teammates, they probably study each other and they probably know what they do, so they're not very different. If you compare Smile and Quiche, they're both players that I've worked with a lot. I know them both pretty well. And they're both players who have recently become very strong. And I think this side will be very close. On the other hand, Nova's pocket, yellow, Andres, is not the greatest player. Definitely the only player here who would not be invited to a tournament. But Nova, he's obviously good enough to do well enough on his own for a little while. So although it's even on the left, the right side will be very interesting because one side's flank is very good, but the other side's pocket is very good. As you just watch them do their usual stuff, build orders, differences, Bohemians against Koreans. Obviously, we haven't seen Bohemians much. We don't know how good they are, but I would honestly prefer Bohemians a little bit in this situation. They have a very strong economy if you get the monastery techs, and they have some very, very solid late game units, like the unique bombard cannon. Then Korean pocket against Ethiopian pocket. Similar civs, just average late game economy, but both with very strong units, like 10 range onagers or onagers with very high blast radius. And both in the hands of quite capable players, so there will be very interesting on this side of the map, because none of the skills are very far from each other, they're all quite similar. Meanwhile here, Aztec pocket, Bohemian flank, against Aztec flank and Ethiopian pocket. So it's a similar setup as it is to the other side, but the balance of actual players is going to make it interesting. The Aztec player is slightly weaker, but will have the time to boom because Nova will be covering the flank. Nova as Bohemians will have a decent rush, not the greatest, but Bohemians are not a bad civ by any stretch. pro.PHET as Aztecs, unlike Andres, will not have the time to boom. pro.PHET is pretty good if you give him the time, but he's still a little bit weak to a rush. As you can see, some players are already hitting him, and he is only just clicking up. Sai, as Ethiopians, is a very scary idea. He's very good with siege, very good in the late game, so giving him one of the best late game siege civs is definitely a strength for him. Meanwhile, on this side, we'll watch Bohemians and Koreans take place between team members. Standard 5 town center, boom, and then getting your tech buildings up at the front. Shania, 6 town centers. And both of them, in fact, a 7th town center. Being quite slow on the technologies, not even a blacksmith or a barracks, but a 7 town center boom will mean there's a lot of economy to back this up, and he has a lot of room to mess up here. Laust, sticking with 5, but with 200 stone in the bank, is getting his technologies a little faster. He is getting some barracks down. I feel like on the other side, Prophet, 4 town centers, idle a little bit. He's getting barracks and blacksmith, but Nova, you can tell there's a skill gap in players. Nova with also 6 town centers. He's getting housed, probably a little more than he should be, but he's making units, unlike Prophet, who should be making villagers right now, but this is the point in the game that he sort of struggles with sometimes, is keeping up production while doing everything else, while cutting forward, while getting upgrades, getting barracks, increasing production. But Nova has taken his time, and Sai is here as Ethiopians, and he does have a castle. He is missing siege engineers, but it's not gonna matter right away. I feel like on the other side, it's pretty even. +2/+2 upgrades against +2/+4. So fully upgraded for Laust, but Koreans don't get full upgrades. Shania could have full upgrades right now, but was very slow to technologies and only got barracks up right at the front. Smile and Quiche are both starting to participate. Smile sending in helps. You know what I would say about this? Not a great idea. Not adding villagers either. 7 town centers only works if you actually use them. On this side, Nova's pocket is taking his time. So Nova is actually 2v1 right now. Prophet wisely did not cut forward very fast. He cut around so that he would not accelerate his own death. And this way Sai was able to cut to him and Nova could not do much. And Prophet is contributing with champs. Not full upgrades, but yes, there is a lot of them, so it will work. Quiche is supporting Shania with champions. Missing an armor upgrade as Koreans. Koreans don't get the attack upgrade though. Nova, in his trademark style, complains about the game, even though his team's not even losing. So some people love him, some people hate him, most people hate him. If we look on this side of the map, Laust is not, his champions are not doing much. This is a very strong wall of onagers here. The only thing that breaks this is your own onagers, and miss micro from Quiche and Shania means that does end up happening. But Quiche is still coming in with more champs. As Pocket, he has had time to boom. Laust switching to pikemen, probably meaning to go more siege heavy instead. He is adding bombard cannons. I assume we'll see some siege onagers. Meanwhile, in response, Shania actually doing the same exact thing, starting to switch into pikemen. You can definitely tell their teammates, but probably a good idea for Shania would be to tech into the unique bombard cannon. The Hafnitsa. That would counter the siege onagers from Ethiopians and Koreans, at least somewhat. Obviously nothing hard counters siege onagers, because they're siege onagers. But if you look back to this side, as I said, Sai is a very scary player as Ethiopians. These siege rams are destroying all the buildings. Scorpions are destroying any units that Nova can mass. And it's gonna be up to Yellow to hold for a little while. We'll see what he can do. He is one of the lowest in terms of population, even compared to Nova. He's still only similar, and Nova's losing half his base. But here we can see the Bohemian unique unit. It's a bomber cannon with slightly more attack, slightly more HP, and slightly more armor as well. It's a little harder to kill, while also killing slightly easier. Even though it takes the same amount of hits, the indirect hits will do more damage. So if you miss slightly, then you will still likely kill them. On this side, very strong mass of bomber cannons from Laust. They're starting to really push Shania Twain here. Quiche still like kind of in the back of Shania's base. He should be prioritizing units in the front. He should ask Shania to make some space, because he is Korean. He can be doing a lot with his civ if he utilizes it to its fullest extent. Smile, 9,000 wood banked. I was about to mention that he had to refresh his lumber camps, but I reminded him enough times that I'm sure it occurred to us at the same exact time. Full upgrades for Smile. Full upgrades for Laust. Quiche still missing an armor upgrade. Very important to get armor upgrades because it adds 2 pierce armor, which is very useful against heavy scorpions. Smile doing the right thing, cutting around into the economy. Next step is to, send units in. And it's really important that they push here because the other side is not doing well. Andres is sending in fully upgraded pikes, champions. But without the unique tech and without a large population, only 185, which was 20 up from a few minutes ago. And in 20 minutes you can probably go to max population from here. Not 20 minutes, rather 2 minutes. No range upgrade on his onagers, no siege onager upgrade either. So it's not looking great for him to hold. If Nova can manage to reboom, that would be ideal, but his only town center is going down now. He's losing all his houses and all his production. He's got a town center in the back. But on the other side, they are still pushing. Laust is making a very strong push with these bomber cannons, champions, halberdiers. Smile backing up with halbs, but with 16,000 wood banked. If you're watching this and you want to learn, you never want to have a wood bank, but you always want to be at max spot. So what Smile should be doing is adding a lot more barracks at the front, just like this, and a lot more siege workshops as well. Specifically, bombard cannons would be really helpful here, because bombard cannons kill buildings the best out of all of the siege units, besides siege rams, but siege rams are not great against siege onagers. Same story over here. Prophet and Psy, just a dream combo. Prophet with strong infantry and Psy with strong siege. Perfectly done by them. So if you want to check for Sling, we can see that Smile has been sending resources to Nova, and Andres has been sending some, I think, to Nova. So Nova's going to get a lot of Sling, and he's going to try to come back into the game as fast as he can, because he has a really big bank right now from the Sling, but he still doesn't have production. Sorry, this is the wrong person. He's building production, but most of it's not actually up, like all these empty barracks. And he does not have much time, because this massive ball of siege and infantry is coming, and Andres is not going to be able to stop it on his own. On this side, it's a complete mess. We have siege onagers, normal onagers, scorpions, bomber cannons, siege of every flavor, even these unique ones. Alternate levels of upgrades, plus 2 range, plus 1 range, plus 1. And it's just fighting all around. Quiche switching to halbs now, but without many. He doesn't have any siege banked either, or siege queued rather. He could use more production at the front, probably refresh his lumber camps a little bit. But Laust is pushing. Smile is pushing. But on the other side, these people are pushing just the same, so it's gonna be very difficult. Because this is a very strong force to stop no matter what. We can see Andres starting the evacuation of villagers all the way around. I'm not sure where he plans to go with them. But he'll find a space. Maybe it's just a summer camp here. Nova doing the same, retreating back into Smile's base. And Sai is just pushing forward and forward. You can just see this like hammer of orange and teal. Obviously don't count out Prophet because while he's a bit of a slow player, he will always try his best in a game. So you can never expect him to do too poorly, especially once he's under pressure. But here, it's starting to fall a bit apart. Like this amount of siege from Smile and Laust is starting to steamroll. And it's going to be very difficult for Quiche to stabilize, Quiche and Shania. Because while Bohemians are strong, they don't have the same like momentum that Ethiopians and Koreans have. And Koreans are great at holding, but only when you're rich, because Koreans do not have a great economy. Like they have an average economy, but their units are very expensive. Siege onagers, bombard cannons, champions. The halberdiers are okay, but he is still missing the armor upgrade. We're going to check his economy upgrades because see, he is missing two-man saw. He has a tendency not to get all of his upgrades, especially when he's Koreans. If he watches this, he'll know exactly what I mean. There was a particular game where he was substituting for Shania Twain's team and played as Koreans, but kind of forgot some eco upgrades. But back to this game. Quiche is basically dead over here, but it's completely... Nova and Andres are completely 30. Quiche is on the deathbed, but Nova's in the grave. Smile has to start diverting forces to this side to hold. But once again, he has a massive bank of 20,000 wood, but he's not using it right away. It's really important to have bombard cannons when fighting against enemy siege. Nova is doing a good job of that without the range upgrade, but their 12 range is still good, and they're still a very good unit in general. And Smile still has units here that's helping Laust, and Laust is starting to... He's getting the snowball of siege onagers, and that's never a good sign. But Sai is starting to trade, and once you have trade, you can delete a lot of woodcutting villagers, and you'll have a lot of space for army. And when you have a lot of space for army as strong as this, it'll be pretty incredible. But he's not gonna have all the time in the world to do it, because Laust is pushing in here, and Smile is as well. Meanwhile, Nova, with the help of some sting, has actually come back in the game with a large mass of champions and with a ton of these Hafnitze but his population is still very low because his economy is nothing great. So it's going to take him a little while to be at the level of everyone else. But this unstoppable force is still just creeping forward, and this is never a good thing when you have so many helps in one place. That was not great. And Sai is starting to clean up these champions here, but he can't quite close in on the health geeks because he doesn't have bomber cannons of his own, and he doesn't have any units to run in and kill them. Although Prophet is doing that same thing right now, though he hasn't quite committed. He should have just ran everything in there because his units are, well, it's more worth it to lose the champions and kill the bombard cannons than to let the bombard cannons live and let your own champions live, because your own champions are going to die to siege anyways. These Ethiopian scorpions are just so strong. And it's just constantly falling apart back here. Laust is just pushing more and more with these 10 range siege onagers, 13 range bombard cannons, and champions. Shania is doing his best to get back in the game. He is max pop, but it's very crowded here. It's very difficult to get anything done. It's really hard to micro these Nitsa against siege onagers when they're choked up like this. It's hard to see your own units, and it's hard to move them around both to and back. And it's starting to stabilize here. Smile and Nova have the units at hand, and Sai is not pushing right away, but these guys are. So it's actually, while Sai and Prophet push much faster on this side, Smile has managed to stall them out, and the same cannot be said about this side. So I think this will be a slow grind as they slowly push into Sai's base and his trade starts to fall apart. But if he and Prophet can push here, then they still have a very good chance in this game, because if they can kill Smile's economy, then Laust is mostly fighting on his own because Nova is relying on Sting. And if nobody's stinging him, then he doesn't have any units anyways. Sai trying to run in, but Nova's stopping it very well. On this side, yellow, Andre's actually coming back with some champions. At 235 population. Anything helps. I mean, when there's so much siege on the map, champions don't do quite as much. Especially because of all the friendly fire. But if you can run into the economy with these, it'll be very strong. The map has completely shifted at this point from where it started. Remember, Nova started all the way over here, and Laust was the opposite flank here. But now, the Team Smile and Laust is all the way down here, 2 bases ahead, and Sai and Prophet's team is all the way up here, 2 bases ahead. So, it's kind of shifted from left to right to left. Well, actually, that doesn't make sense, but we'll continue on from here. I'll cut that part out. Laust just constantly bombarding with these 14 bombard cannons, 5 siege onagers, and a constant stream of infantry. And he's starting to add some trade as well. He has 56 trade. It's a bit precariously placed as Prophet is running in right now. Prophet still without the unique tech. It probably would have benefited him at this point to get a castle. It's very expensive when you don't have guilds, especially this late in the game. But when you have +8 attack on your champions, like, nothing stands a chance. Once the champions actually close in, of course, because if siege onagers just kill it first, they're not great. Andres marching his units in like a military parade across the enemy. But the enemy's like still alive. and he's actually getting into Sai's economy, which is exactly what needed to happen. And if he gets into this trade here, then Sai will have to... He doesn't actually have very many resources banked up. He has a decent bank, but not an amazing one, especially when you're making these units, these very expensive units. But he is still pushing. He's killing houses, which will slow Nova down. These siege rams are just running through everything. But will it be fast enough to stop Laust doing the same thing here? Smile has actually lost most of his economy at this point. He's down to 200 population with losing most of his house space. So even though he has good units out on the field, he's not making them for very long. Nova back up to 300 population with 100 lumberjacks and actually a decent bank. So if he can start mixing the siege back in, like another big group of bombard cannons, Hofnitze, then that will really allow them to stabilize. And you can see Sai is starting to lose his houses now, and he really can't keep anything up. He's got all halves instead of siege, and he's got units all over his base from Andres. Very well done from Andres to make the right decision here and walk into the economy. Prophet still sending champions on this side, but it might be a little too late because Sai was the main powerhouse and he can't support both sides. You can see it's just a mess of colors. Gray back here, purple all around here. Orange just spread out across half the map. And just siege on just walking in. And they're starting to... The side is not... See, there's no more siege from side. There's still infantry from Prophet. But infantry on its own can't do much against siege. Especially Korean and Ethiopian siege, which will just demolish it. You just have to wait for the siege on its shot one of these days. Another tip is you always want to spread your infantry out. You never want to send it in column formation because one siege onager would have stopped all of that. And see, all it is now is champions from Prophet, and that's just not enough to push this. His population's starting to drop. And Sai, his production's empty. He has 44 siege workshops and 28 barracks. That is a lot of siege workshops to not have anything be producing from. But he's lost his home base. He has very small economy left over. No more farms left at all. And 50 on wood is not much. And some discussion here, but I think it is indeed over as Sai has not made any progress on this side lately, but it's just getting worse and worse here. And the blue-green team has started to take over 3/4 of the map. Prophet with a nice last chance raid, but it's only targeting lumberjacks, which is at this point nobody's relying just on lumberjacks. And even if he kills them, it's not going to be in time. If he did this a few minutes earlier, it would help a lot more because it's distracting a lot of army and would have allowed Sai's siege to push at the front. But Sai doesn't have any more siege left. He's got scorpions, but those don't push buildings very well. Quiche trying to make some champions to defend, but it's him against so many more. And it's just a mess of colors everywhere. This entire base is like a rainbow. because so many players have had to migrate to it. Yellow and red had to move into it. Blue originally owned it, but had to keep retreating back. It's part of green's base as well. Like, you very ever rarely see a map as crazy as that. This side as well, so many colors. Gray, teal, orange, purple. They're just all here. But it's the same story. They're making a little bit of progress here. And these are good trades to have as well. Best counter to Ethiopian siege onagers being Ethiopian siege onagers. But there's just no more resistance on this side. No units at all. And it's just empty. There's a lot of buildings, but that's it. No units, no real production buildings. And Laust, Smile, Nova, and Andres will just start to starve out the opponents. They'll start to deflate the opponents because Sai's really just standing on a little bit of air now. He's got this really strong looking push. Shania trying to build a town center here. A little bit. It doesn't go up. Sai does not have the eco to continue this for now. 10,000 wood will be like one more round of siege onagers like that, but nothing else. And it's just, compare that to Laust, 30,000 wood. And Laust is doing full gold units, not a single trash unit. They really put up a good fight on this side. Sai and pro.PHET pushed for a very long time. Remember, they started pushing here. They pushed all the way across this space. All of this space. But they just couldn't get past here in time. Not in time for them to keep Laust and Smile from pushing this bottom side. Korean cavalry are pretty bad, but I mean, when you have 30,000 resources, there's no such thing as a bad unit. Unless you're not using the resources. And there's just not much resistance left. We can speed to the end as the amount of space that Sai, Shania, and pro.PHET have is just constantly decreasing. Shania is the first to call it, as he has been saying for a very long time. And that wraps it up. A very colorful game. A beautiful mini-map. But very well played by both sides. Laust and Smile just a little stronger with their push. Most units killed goes to Sai with his huge amount of Ethiopian siege. Food collected, pro.PHET making full champions. Laust with a ton of trade. Really helping him to push with his massive Korean death ball. Also sending a lot of resources. And Nova receiving the most. Huge amount of sling. And this allows him to come back into the game. And really help stabilize the north side. Most of the map explored. Very important. Not really. Villager high Shania. Shania very good at adding villagers, but sometimes when you're behind, it just doesn't matter how many you add. You can't regain your footing in time. Up and down timeline as well. Nova goes down for a very long time, but slowly crawls back up. Sai is just one massive push right until the end, where he loses his base. Shania Twain slowly goes down. pro.PHET slowly going down. Quiche going down quickly and then like trying to come back at the end, but not quite. Very close game, very intense game, but a good game. Laust, Smile, Nova, Andres are the winners, and that is it.